Okay, guys, another AFC opponent this week, team to beat us soundly a year ago. Got to go back to the East Coast to play a game over there, so we got to show up much better than we did a week ago. This is an AFC game. It's going to count big down the road. Any questions?
So Sean, you there? All right, let's go to the next one.
Hey, Paul, Jerry McDonald. Penalties have been up team-wide over the last 3 games, I think, and defensively also, and the kind that give up first downs and second chances. How is that addressed during the course of the week in practice?
Well, you look at those things every Monday with the guys. Where we may have erred, what should have been called, what could have been called. We try to fix those things on the practice field, but certainly you can't give an offense like the Falcons second at bats. It's hard enough to get them off the field on third down, let alone give them a first down on a third down, whether it be a PI or roughing the passer. We just can't have it. We're not good enough to give teams second at bats and the penalties, so we got to cut those back.
Paul, were you encouraged at all by the way the defense started the game out? It seemed like you guys came with some energy early in the game and put in some tough situations and helping the field goals. Was that at least a sign of something that you guys can build on? Yeah,
I mean, you went back and looked at the tape, and if you didn't know the situation in the game, you felt pretty good about it. But we got to continue. Hey, if for some reason the offense isn't in a full rhythm, we got to answer the bell, whether it be a turnover, sudden change, whatever it is. That's our job to hold them to field goals, and that's what I expect. So hopefully we can continue to do that.
Hey, Paul, what's your first impression of Vic Beasley?
He's got a really good first step quickness. He's really smart. He's picked up the playbook. He adds some speed to our front, and he doesn't say a lot. He's a very coachable guy. So he's been a pleasure to add, and hopefully we can get him up and running here in short order.
Hey, Paul, can you guys hear me? Is the audio coming through?
Sean. Yep.
It looks like you guys are going to get Cleve Farrell back this week. Obviously, you're losing Malik Collins, but with what you had up front and some of the additions that you made at pass rusher, how are you feeling about your ability to get to the quarterback? You guys have been trending up the last 4 weeks or so from the beginning of the season. Just how are you feeling about that aspect of your defense?
You really look at the pressure numbers, the sack numbers. Again, I always like turnovers. If you're getting the pressure numbers and getting the ball off the hand where it's not in rhythm, that's what you want. So those guys, again, we've had a lot of different combination of guys in there. We're just trying to find, again, the right 4 guys, whether it be a rotation of guys or certain 4 guys in base or nickel, whatever it may be, so they can communicate and play alongside one another for the long run.
Well, Cory Littleton was active on Sunday, making some plays. Do you think, in spite of everything, that the reason why he couldn't play, but is there something you said sometimes about being able to watch for a week or two and maybe understand that I don't have to do it all by myself. I don't have to live up to this big contract and just go do what I got to do. That there might have been some of that element there on Sunday for him.
Yeah, certainly when you walk into a new environment and you're a prize free agent guy, there is a certain pressure on to perform, and that's in do right. But I think for him sitting back and watching it, and sitting and seeing those things, I think it was a help for him. Nick Maher's been playing really at a high level for us each and every week, so we've been able to rotate him in some more along with Kwiatkowski. So, the rotation of those 3 guys would be good, where he doesn't have to play potentially every snap. We can rotate those 3 guys in different packages, so I think that's helped him as well.
A couple of those guys, hey Paul, guys that you already had addressed about was Cleveland and LaMarcus, as well as Cory, who all tested positive with coronavirus. Can you just speak upon, just firsthand, what it's like seeing them have to go through what they're going through and the battle that they've had to get you to this point to test negative and come back, with being fatigued and get back to NFL conditioning and strength?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough on them because they want to be out here playing, helping us win. It's tough on us because we need them to win. So, you got to get them back in the building, back into the rigors of practice, get their legs back a little bit that way. So all those guys have done a really good job this week of going out and practicing and taking on a full load in practice. So hopefully, by Sunday they'll be 100% rolling.
Coach, what have you seen from the Jets in terms of maybe Sam Darnold, everybody knows the talent is there, high draft pick, just hasn't kind of connected, hasn't clicked. So what have you kind of seen watching them on film of maybe where they're missing a little bit?
All I have to do is watch the film from a year ago. I mean, they beat us soundly up there in New York last year. That's really all the film I need to look at. He's a talented guy. He can run around the pocket. He's a bigger guy to get on the ground. He can make all the throws. They got 3 really good receivers. They got a veteran back who's a Hall of Famer, and they've had some different guys up front on the O-line. But to me, if you let this guy have time and be successful, he'll be successful. So that's our job to affect his rhythm.
Looks like we got 2 more. We'll go Amber, then Paul.
My question was similar to Adam's. What do the Jets do well, and what could potentially pose a problem for you guys?
Like I said, they have some really good receivers. I think Crowder's a heck of a receiver. Perriman, and they got the young Mims kid. They got a couple other guys who'll do some different things for them. And then obviously the back, Gores is a hard runner. He's a veteran guy. He's really good in protection. He understands the pickups of all those things. And this is an opponent we're not taking lightly at all. They beat us, again, soundly last year, so we got to understand that.
Hey, Paul, when you look at Frank Gore, does he look like a 37-year-old running back to you?
No, he does not. He's fresh leg. He runs hard. He runs behind his pads. He's good in protection. So, he's a guy that, from what I understand, I haven't got a chance to know him very well. He's a great locker room guy. So we'll have our eye on it for him on Sunday.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, guys, we got Coach Olson. Go ahead and raise your hands.
When you look at the running game the past couple of weeks, what have you seen as the major issues and why you haven't been as successful as you were in the past?
The major issues, that's an interesting question, Josh, and one that really want to discuss in a public forum. But it's always an ongoing process. Every week's different, our plan's different, and planning on getting them back on track this weekend.
This is Hondo Carpenter. I'd like to ask you about your offense. Obviously, last week was not indicative of how they've played all year. So how do you address that? Because last week is not what they are, and get them to move on quickly.
Well, like you stated, Hondo, in that, our belief, we have a tremendous amount of belief in the players on our offense, and it wasn't indicative of their performance thus far this season. So we're looking forward to playing this weekend and getting a chance to see how our guys respond to some adversity. But we feel like we've accumulated a lot of the right players, the right character players, and they've had a good week of practice, and just looking forward to get back on the field again to prove themselves.
Hey, Greg, Jerry McDonald, it seems like for 10 straight weeks we've talked about what a remarkable job the offensive line's done despite all the moving parts. And then you're coming up a game with a couple of strip sacks and an interception that was under pressure, and Josh mentioned the run game. I don't know if surprised is the right word, but they've been so good all year. What were your impressions of how they played and maybe what went wrong?
Well, obviously, you can't turn the ball over 5 times. Above everything else, certainly can't turn the football over. So it starts there with the turnovers. But then again, as we talked last week, we had mentioned that there are no, trap games for a mature football team. And you got to be prepared to play every week. To your best abilities, and if not, you can get embarrassed in this league, and we felt like we were embarrassed last week. So we kind of, tighten up the screws a little bit this week in terms of our preparation, and I think our guys have responded thus far in terms of their practice and their preparation. And again, it happened, we owned it, and now we got a chance again this week to get back on the practice field and try to prove ourselves, as you have to every week again in this league.
Hey, Greg, after that game by Derek and then the turnovers and the struggles, do you approach it any differently this week, or is it kind of just like a blip on the overall season?
Well, obviously you got to try and address, some of the issues that are very correctable, and we addressed those issues early in the week, and then we wanted to move right on to the Jets because it's, again, every year is different, every team's different. We didn't play very well when we went back there last year, but it's a totally different football team. So we try to get back to another East Coast trip, your winning routine during the week, we didn't have to deal with Thanksgiving this week, so it was a little bit different routine this week than last week. But our preparation's just got to be better. And again, we talked about the details of everybody's assignments, and just kind of brought it back home and trying to get back to what we thought was a winning recipe early on in the season.
Hi, Greg. So, I mean, you mentioned that last week you kind of correctly called that this Falcons game had a real trap game feel to it, and they seem to kind of disrupt what the Raiders typically did on offense. Is there any concern that the Jets could use that somewhat as a blueprint, and how you kind of keep that from happening?
Yeah, again, you've got a what we would say, an 11-game sample size for them to look at, and they're going to look at that one game and think that maybe here's the key to beating the Raiders based on that game. And I think that'd be incorrect. I don't think most guys would go about it that way. But there are certain things maybe that Atlanta did that they'll feel like, in their mind, this exposed the Raiders' offense. But we don't feel that way. Again, every game's different, every plan's different, and we like the plan for this week, and we're looking forward to playing the game.
Is there any challenges to doing it virtually this week and putting that together?
Yeah, every week it's a challenge, but it's the same challenge for every team. For the most part, some teams have, had their facilities closed more than once, but we've been doing it virtually. I think we've got a pretty good schedule. I think our football ops people have done a nice job in terms of setting up our meeting rooms. The players have been very responsive in terms of getting home and Zooming from home or Zooming from individual meeting rooms. So at this point in the season, it's kind of become routine for us as far as the whole Zoom meeting schedule, but certainly presents a challenge.
Looks like two more. We'll go Paul.
Hey, Greg, obviously you're only looking, you're focused on your own roster, but when your eyes kind of wander over to the Jets sideline, does Frank Gore look like a 37-year-old playing running back in the NFL?
Well, I wish I had time to watch their offense, but I've been watching a lot of the defensive players, and again, they've got really talented defensive football team. So most of my focus has been there on the defense. But credit to him, incredible athlete, incredible running back. Again, time does not seem to affect him at a position where normally you see it affect his running backs at an early age, but. Certainly a credit to him as a player and how well he's trained his body and taken care of his body over the years.
Coach, when you consider that the Jets' run defense is considerably better than their pass defense, well, what do you think about that? Does it maybe deter you from trying to reestablish that ground game so much and maybe go through the air a bit more?
Well, like you said, Amber, every game plan's different, and we're a big believer. We have a big belief in running the football as an offensive staff, and we always believe it starts with the run. But again, every plan is different. We know again that they're a very talented group of players on their side of the ball. Their defensive line, we think, is one of the better defensive lines in the league. They've got some young players in the secondary that are actually playing very well. So we'll have our hands full. But again, like I said earlier, we like the plan that we've put in place this week, and we're looking forward to getting back out on the field and improving ourselves.
Last question, Levi.
Hey, Greg, kind of untapping back into what you just said about their young emerging defense and their line. What does the game tape show you about Quentin Williams that you have to worry about going into this game?
Well, his size and athleticism. His size matched with his athleticism. You usually don't see big guys move the way he does. So, and you saw that in college. Obviously, he's a dominant player in college, but you just don't see athletes of that size move the way that he moves. So we'll have our hands full with him. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Cory, the time that you had away where you were able to kind of watch from afar for a little while, do you think that helps a little bit sometimes, being able to see the game from a different vantage point and just be able to maybe figure things out a little bit more and see things from a different point of view?
Being in that standpoint, separating yourself, being out of it, I guess. I mean, you do get to see a different perspective, and get to learn from it. But then also at the same time, I feel like playing it is always the best way to learn.
Corey, what was the process like for you to get back up to speed after missing the time and feel like you're back to where you were before on the COVID list?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm back up to where I was before. I made sure after I came back that I did the normal conditioning test that everyone does in the NFL, make sure my wind is up to speed. And I've always been with the team this whole time. I haven't necessarily been in the facility, but I've been on Zoom. So the playbook standpoint, I've been good.
Corey, Trent Brown and Cleveland Farrell had mentioned they had Cleveland certainly mentioned it, and we know that Trent Brown had a bit of a rough experience with COVID. How was your experience with it? Did you have serious symptoms, if you don't mind sharing, and has the road back been very difficult for you?
I had mild symptoms, thankfully, me and my family. So we all stayed together. We made it through it pretty unscathed and okay. I probably got it the worst. I still can't smell anything, which kind of sucks. But other than that, I'm all good.
Corey, a lot of the talk when you have COVID is about the physical setbacks, but mentally, trying to get back in after, going through that process, what does your mindset go to? What kind of source of motivation do you use to pull through the adversity?
It'd have to be the same motivation why I show up every day. The love of the game, my family, my teammates that I'm playing next to. We do it for each other.
Hey, Corey, I'm sure, when you came in and the Raiders targeted you in free agency, I think you probably both expected big things, and probably more than you've been able to deliver, partially because you've been sick and partially because it's a new team and you didn't have an off season. But have you felt that pressure internally on trying to make good on the faith they had in you?
Yes, in a sense, because that pressure necessarily isn't the biggest pressure on myself. I would have to say the biggest pressure comes from internally in myself. Every year that I've played before I came to this organization, I always wanted to be a top 5 linebacker, and that was the way I'm going to play to try to make sure I am. And I still come to this game with the same mindset. The results haven't been the same. Hopefully, I can get that to change.
Okay, you guys got anything more for Corey? Okay, thank you guys.
Sounds good.